And in the second game of the year, you went to Detroit, the home of where Ben Johnson used to work, the place where you didn't call that final timeout in a comeback game, and you were completely inept on the defensive side of the football, and you allowed 52 points. With your best player in Jalen Johnson probably being out for the entire season, with the defensive line, which you were just talking about, not even sacking the quarterback once. You could not come up with a script of your imagination of a worse start for the 2025 Chicago Bears. When it comes to Gordon and Edwards, re-injured his hamstring yesterday and had to leave the game. Gordon re-injured himself without playing a game. Remember, he's had hamstring issues. He then was in the clear, was not on the injury report before week 1. And then the very last day before the Monday Night Football game on the Saturday walkthrough, he came in and he said it's bugging him again. And he just listed them week to week. So with Gordon, who has had this injury before and a few other times, and I would wonder, I've asked you guys this, I think Joniak asked Ben Johnson, will play it in a little bit. Besides all the other issues on the field, besides all the issues with Ryan Poles in his draft class, and we'll get into all of that here, 312-332-3776, I would think that the Bears with the new coaching staff would also want to put under the microscope the fact that 3 of their very important players who had soft tissue injuries all got re-injured immediately. Mm-hmm. That Jalen Johnson was re-injured immediately in that second quarter. That Gordon, who has had the injury all preseason, was re-injured before playing a game, and that Edwards, who had the hamstring injury, went and he was immediately re-injured too. That going 3 for 3. I understand it's football. I understand that it's not foolproof, but to go 3 for 3 in the re-aggravation department, and they're not classifying the Jalen Johnson as a re-aggravation, but to have those guys.
How about us as fans re-aggravated every Sunday?
It's the life of a Bears fan, Waddle. The re-aggravation.
Listen, I could argue, too, that they're their 3 best defensive players. I mean, you get Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and T.J. Edwards?
Yes, and that's because the defensive line doesn't get any pass rush.
Oh, yeah.
And you pointed something out from the way Ben Johnson sort of in code talked about the defensive line.
He talked about having to scheme up, some things to help Montez Sweat out. You don't scheme things to help a $25 million a year pass rusher. He helps the rest of everybody on that defense because he individually has such an impact. He's worth $25 million a year, theoretically. I think the thought of having to scheme things up for him and then have to also for the other guy on the other side who was given $32 million guaranteed in a Dangbo, really? You've got so much money invested, not just money. You also gave Grady Jarrett a lot of $28.5 million, I think. You invested a second-round pick in Javon Dexter. Think of how many resources you've put into that front four. And now we got to talk about scheme-related scheming?
Right, and the way your reaction to me, I know you always forget what you say in real time, but as he was going through Sweat and Dio, and then he talked about Dexter, and then you turn to me and he goes, he basically just said the entire defensive line has to play better.
Yes, I did say that.
He basically called out the entire defensive line as he went through it one by one. I mean, thus what happens when you get beat, they score 52 points on you.
Jared Goff wasn't touched. Jared Goff was 23 of 28, I think, and threw for 370-some yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions. They averaged 12 yards per pass attempt. And, oh, by the way, against the run, they gave up 177 rushing yards, 6 yards per carry. Do you realize, I know that you do, that in in their last 5 quarters, this defense has allowed 680 yards and 73 points. In their last 5 quarters. Yeah. And I heard Chris Bleck say today, it's the 5th most expensive defense in the National Football League based on what they're being paid collectively. So, I get, we could also have the offense conversation for sure. We have plenty of time for that as well.
Plenty of time for everything.
But the defense, and now you're without your 3 best defensive players. I think Dennis Allen is a really good defensive coach, and his resume says as such. I don't know that Dennis Allen's going to be able to play his scheme. You can't go out there and play man for 80 snaps, not with the guys they have. You got no pass rush, and you're playing second and third string cornerbacks. And Tyreek Stevenson, I thought this was going to be an opportunity for him to reestablish himself. Really difficult day yesterday. And I'm not sure that you can run Dennis Allen's scheme with the current personnel they have up front and in their secondary.
When you were talking about the defensive stats, I forgot if you mentioned the 73 points. Did you mention that?
Yeah, 680 yards, 73 points in 5 quarters. 73 points.
Think about that, guys. The Bears allowed, I want to say, 6 points in the first 3 quarters of football against the Vikings. Wasn't it 17-6?
I think so, yeah.
And since that time, in the last 5 quarters of football, they have allowed 73 points. I'm telling you that if we went on in August and we said, let's script out the worst possible start for the Chicago Bears in the first 2 games, let's write it. What do we imagine could be the worst possible start? I don't know if you could have come up in your imagination a worse start than this. You choked at home after having that lead to a quarterback who's starting his first game, allowing him to account for 3 touchdowns. Yeah. And you lost in an Eberflusian way where they came from behind.
Good use of the word.
And in the second game of the year, you went to Detroit, the home of where Ben Johnson used to work, the place where you didn't call that final timeout in a comeback game, and you were completely inept on the defensive side of the football, and you allowed 52 points. With your best player in Jalen Johnson probably being out for the entire season, with the defensive line, which you were just talking about, not even sacking the quarterback once. You could not come up with a script of your imagination of a worse start for the 2025 Chicago Bears.
Listen, 0-2 was not what I expected. I expected them before the season began to be 1-1 at this point, beat the Vikings, probably lose in a tough situation in Detroit. The fact that they're 0-2 is only made worse by how they've lost. How they've lost, to me, has been a bigger kick in the groin than actually
a blowout.
Yeah.
To choke a game away in the fourth quarter, which is probably worse of the two. Like that Vikings game shines even brighter, especially after watching them on Sunday Night Football against Atlanta, not being able to score or move the football in their own building against Atlanta. Remember, this is the team that laughed at Atlanta when Atlanta chose Michael Penix so they could get Rome. Do you remember that scene from behind the scenes up at the Bears? Oh, they passed on a defensive player, or they didn't go after Rome. They took a quarterback when they just signed Kirk Cousins. The Atlanta Falcons look better than you in the current and in the future. And here you are, after all these changes, looking the way you've looked. And by the way, the Ryan Poles draft class, to go on top of the results of just the singular games, where your 10th overall pick isn't scratching the box score, where Luther Burden, your second-round pick, is really not scratching the box score, where other guys who you drafted in the second round are not even active and dressing for the game. This is a team coming off a 5-win season? What was their...
They were 5-12 last year.
They had top of the board draft picks in every round.
Yeah.
And they don't have draft picks who are even contributing so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to get to here. I mean, I thought the entire game yesterday was just an extension of the fourth quarter Monday night. We talked about last week. I said on the pregame show yesterday, I thought you're going to learn a lot about this Bears team this afternoon, meaning yesterday. How would they come out and respond to the adversity, the self-created adversity of losing from an, basically an inexcusable position on Monday night? Who would you see? Well, you saw a team that got dominated for 60 full minutes, and this is who they are right now. Like, they defined who they are. And and conversely, look at the Lions. They spit the bit up in Green Bay, got dominated. How are they going to respond to that adversity? They defined themselves yesterday. Again, they're a different team than this one. This one is, working through a new head coach. That team is a more veteran group, more established group. It's a 2-time division champion. But You saw on full display the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, and we got to talk.
It wasn't even close.
And we had like Ben Johnson in his second straight game made questionable decisions, and I get it. Every coach, if you put him under a microscope, there are going to be plays that you want called back. Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, they've all had them, even at the top of their game. But like coming off of a lot of questionable calls in game one, the back-to-back quarterback sneaks, there are a few areas where you're just wondering. And I want Bears fans to react. We had a great weekend of calls on the pregame show and on the halftime show, too, yesterday. We had some great calls last week on this show. So if you want to bring it strong and you have a comment, even if you want to joke about them, if you're angry, how are you feeling? Like, this is why I know, and I get it. This is why a lot of you say to us, we're not buying the offseason hype, where we don't care about winning the press conferences in the offseason. We don't care about mini camps. We don't care about free agency or the drafts. We want to see it on the field. And right now, we're moping again. Bears fans are moping after, you wait all off season. You crave the football season all winter, all spring. You can't wait for training camp. And this is what they deliver on your doorstep in game one, a choke. In game two, you get blown out. And where's the hope? 312-332-3776. I'll give you a couple of things. Believe it or not, as angry as I am today, I'll give you a couple of examples on why you should be hopeful. And I saw from a team a couple of years ago that I think we could compare to the Bears that had a very similar start to this 2025 Bears team, and they have since turned it around. Let's see if you could figure out that team. I also want to talk about the root of this problem. It obviously starts at ownership, and it filters down to Ryan Poles. Those are the two main reasons the Bears are in the spot that they're in again. So Waddle and I are here for you, 312-332-3776. We major in these types of shows. Unfortunately, we hate doing these shows. Like one of my buddies.
Let's talk about it.
One of my buddies said to me, isn't it sometimes good for business? I go, it's not good for business when you've done the same show for years over and over and over. What's good for business is bringing new people into the party who want to hear Bears talk because they're excited about
These
it.
conversations have a shelf life, and these types of shows have a shelf life, and then they get tiresome for everybody.
Tiresome. And you played for the team. You want them to win. You're a Bears fan. I grew up a diehard Bears fan. We're sick of this. We want the Bears to win.